Hey, lifers. I believe we are live. Everything should be good. It sounded good on my end. Of course, it's a little bit slow starting up, a little bit of a delay. How are y'all doing tonight? Hope everybody is doing well. We have a huge championship weekend on the horizon coming up starting tomorrow night with the Pac-12 Championship. So I'm here probably for about an hour and a half, a little bit less time than normal. I felt really weird this week. I've slept a whole lot this week, like within a 32-hour window, Tuesday night to Wednesday. I slept like 19 hours, which is not normal nor okay. And usually that's my body's way of telling me that I may start to be getting sick and to kind of calm down. So that is why there's been a little bit less videos than I wanted to earlier in the week, but hopefully I can make up for it with a couple of live streams. We have a lot going on this week. I will be doing a live stream Sunday morning. I'm shooting for 11, but it may be closer to 11:30. The college football playoffs top 4 will be opening up at noon, so I want to be able to hang out and watch that with you guys live, and we can all be enraged probably together at whoever ends up at number 4, because whoever ends up at number 5 probably has just as good of a reason to get in as number 4. So, hello, I can't say that name, Aston, Nick Smith, Jab Gaming, Lil Jackster, what's up, guys? How's everybody doing tonight? 2 live streams in a week. I feel like did I do that last week? Maybe I did. We got the chat on the screen. I will always do the same little announcement at the beginning. If I don't answer your question, I'm not ignoring you. I just tend to look right at the camera when I'm talking, and a lot of people ask questions a lot of times. So the best way to get my attention is, I may be able to see it in the chat, but just in case I don't, is a super chat. If you want to throw a dollar or two my way, it does help the channel, and to definitely make sure I see your question or your comment. I do have the separate tab up, so I can make sure to double check myself in case I don't see one, like I did a couple of streams ago. So is life, I guess. So yeah, I will. I'm gonna try to grab as many questions as I can. About an hour and a half here on the live stream, and we will see what's going on. So we can talk about coaching changes. We can talk about Tennessee not getting a coach forever for the rest of time because nobody wants to coach there, and whenever they do, they somehow bungle it up. We could talk about conference championship games this upcoming weekend. We could talk about playoff scenarios. So there's a lot of things we can talk about. Hi, Max. All right. Is Wisconsin a replica of the 2015 Iowa team? No, not necessarily, but not as far as the team makeup goes. But if you're talking about what is probably going to happen to them in the Big Ten Championship game and the playoff, probably. Undefeated regular season, plays a tough-fought Big Ten Championship game that may go down to the wire. It may not, but it may go down to the wire, and then they may end up losing and not being in. That would not be good for them. There's Ohio State fans would be perfectly fine with it. How do you think... Wow, that is a really long name. How do you think Dan Mullen will do at Florida? I think he's going to do really well at Florida. I think that's about as good of a hire as Florida could have gotten based on what's going on in the country right now, based on what fits with him. He already knows the personnel. He already has a track record of winning there with offensive coordinating. 05 to 08, 2 national championships, got Tebow where he was during that time. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. I do think Florida fans may want to give him a year or two to kind of settle in as the head coach there. But he'll win there a lot easier than he did at Mississippi State, I can guarantee you that. Do you think TCU can beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game? I think they can. I think honestly, I don't know if that's true. I was going to say it's the least likely of all the 5 Power 5 conference championship games, but I'm not entirely certain that's true. Because TCU is a good team. Oklahoma ran on TCU's defense more than any other team did against the Horned Frogs this year, which is not a great sign for what could happen in Cowboy Stadium in a rematch. I think Baker Mayfield is going to be fired up. Obviously, he feels like he has a lot of things to prove the week before the Heisman. So I think TCU rather has a uphill battle against Oklahoma. I think technically TCU outscored Oklahoma in the second half of that game, but I'm fairly confident Oklahoma's going to win that game. Who takes Florida State job when Jimbo leaves? Everything I've read on the internet, which means it's 100% true, because that's how the internet is, says Willie Taggart of Oregon, which I'm slightly disappointed at. I kind of wanted to see what he would do up at Oregon, but of course he was former South Florida head coach, so he kind of knows the state of Florida a little bit. So it'll be, I think it's going to be Willie Taggart, and I saw somebody on Twitter, was it Brett McMurphy or something, that said that regents at Florida State do not anticipate him coming back. Will Minnesota be a contender under Coach Fleck in a couple of years? I think so. He's going to have to. It's a pretty small boat he has to row up against some of the bigger boys, but he's in the West, which helps. Once he kind of gets going in recruiting, assuming somebody from a bigger program doesn't come and pluck him up first, I think Minnesota will at least be in contention to win the West in about 2 years or so. Dustin, what happens if the top 4 lose their games? Chaos. Chaos is the real answer. Let's play it out for a split second. So that would mean Miami's in. That would mean Georgia's in. So Georgia would probably 1, Miami would probably be 2, Alabama would be 3, and at that case, you almost have to give Ohio State the 4th seed, right? TCU won't be able to jump up from 11 to 4. Penn State isn't going to move. Pac-12 winner is irrelevant. Yeah, so if for some reason the worst case scenario for the College Football Playoff Committee happens and all 4 lose, which is not going to happen, but it's fun to think about. If all 4 you lose, I think that's your playoff. Who becomes Tennessee's job? Who becomes their head coach? Says the awesome person. I don't know. I really don't know. All right, I'm going to go back down to the live chat. So here's what Tennessee has done. If I was Mike Gundy, would I have taken Tennessee's offer? No, I wouldn't have even talked to them. The fact that they flew out to talk to him is ridiculous. I wouldn't have even done that. What all has happened with Tennessee? So they supposedly, John Curry signed a deal with Jeff Brom of Purdue. He went back and all he needed was the chancellor's signature. The chancellor said no. So then Curry went back to Brom with a lower offer, and Brom was obviously like, no, I'm not doing that. So they tried to get Mike Gundy. That didn't work out. They tried to get Dave Doran of NC State, who is not a great coach, to be honest with you. He's 8-4 this year because his entire defense is seniors, so that helps. Dave Doran said no. I don't know if Tennessee's reached out to T. Martin. I don't know why they wouldn't. I don't know if they've reached out to Chad Morris. Now, allegedly, Les Miles is most interested in that job because, yeah, okay, sure. So Les Miles is better than Dave Doran. Why didn't they reach out to Les Miles before they reached out to freaking Greg Schiano? That doesn't make sense at all. Everything's happening. Anybody else that I leave off? Who all said no to Tennessee? John Gruden, Dave Doran, Kevin Sumlin apparently said no when, briefly approached by reporters or something. Tennessee didn't even reach out to him. So we got John Gruden, Kevin Sumlin, Dave Doran, Mike Gundy, Chip Kelly. I heard that they went after Scott Frost, but obviously he said no. So they're at their 7th? I feel like I'm leaving somebody out too. They may be at their 8th pick for head coach. I have no idea. I have no idea who is going to be Tennessee's next head coach. I don't know why they didn't almost immediately go after Les Miles. Why would he's a proven winner in the SEC. He's certainly better than anything you've had over the last decade. Why in the world? Do you believe the committee is trying to make Alabama's resume look better than it is by leaving Miss State ranked? No, I don't think that. I think Mississippi State lost their star quarterback the second series of the game, and then they lost on the road. So I don't really think that's I don't think that's enough to completely drop them out. They're going to use some of that. I do, however, think that they put South Carolina at 24 last week to boost Clemson's resume. I do think that. But Mississippi State had a legitimate reason. Their only 3 losses, even though some of them were blowouts, were to Georgia, Auburn, and Alabama before that Egg Bowl. And the Egg Bowl was probably because Fitzgerald got injured. And I do want to let you guys know, nobody's done this yet, but if you put a bunch of emojis on either side of your question, I'm not going to read it. That annoys me. And there's a second one. Oh, if you're talking to each other, I see somebody doing it right there. Just put a little @ and then their name. That you guys can talk to each other. That is perfectly fine with me. I have no problem doing that. But just do that so I don't read it. Just something that says Oklahoma. And I'm like, okay, Oklahoma. Dustin, can UCF make it in? No. I kept them alive in the eliminator just out of principle. I could not eliminate them. But no, they cannot make it in. When will you come to Penn State for a whiteout? That's a great... I want to. Hello, Cam. I want to a lot. I don't know when I will. That requires things like money. And I don't have money. Does Missouri deserve a good bowl game? They deserve a better bowl game than I thought Missouri would have a couple of weeks ago, which was none. They'll probably go to something, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but one of the probably the lowest SEC bowl game, because I believe they finished 7-5. So they'll go to one of the Independence Bowl or one of the lower tiers. Why does Arkansas want Malzahn so bad? Well, he has a lot of deep ties to the state. Grew up, I don't know if he grew up there, but huge head coach there in high school. That's how he came to prominence. Coached Arkansas State. He was an offensive coordinator in Fayetteville for 1 season under Houston Nutt, maybe 2. So he knows the state. He is, I think he's an Arkansas native. And look what he did at Auburn. Gene Chizik wasn't the best head coach at Auburn. If you take Cam Newton and you take Nick Fairley off that Auburn team in 2010, they don't win the national championship. So, and he had a 5-15 record at Iowa State. Is that right? 5-19. So yeah, he not the greatest coach in the world statistically. His last 2 years at Auburn were not good in 2011, 2012, especially when you watch the Iron Bowl and see how far Alabama actually was ahead of them. And then you watch what Malzahn did just taking over Auburn. Not always an up year, but when they're up, they are up. And they've been up further than Arkansas's been up. Definitely in my lifetime, but arguably since Bobby Petrino left, they rose to number 3 in 2011, Arkansas did. So Malzahn going to Arkansas could entirely change the program. But if he beats Georgia, it ain't going to happen. So if you're Arkansas, you are really, really, really rooting for Georgia. Is Haskins a future Cardell Jones? I don't know. We didn't get to see enough of him in that Michigan game. Somebody asked me in the last live stream, and I was talking to one of my friends about it, if I would start Dwayne Haskins over JT Barrett. And something in my gut wants to say yes, that I would, because JT Barrett has been kind of up and down, but in something like a conference championship game, you want your senior. He underwent surgery and apparently is ready to go for the game, which doesn't seem real to me, but whatever. So if his knee is 100%, I would start Bear Jones. I would start JT Barrett. But if JT Barrett is only 95%, I would put Dwayne Haskins in and see what he could do, because he looked pretty damn dynamic against Michigan, and this looks a lot like that 2014 Big Ten championship against Wisconsin, doesn't it? Dustin, do you think LSU should be higher ranking? No, I think they're about where they're at. They beat Auburn, which I think people down the line are going to look back at Auburn's schedule and go, how in the world did they lose to LSU? Up 20-0 to a team that lost to Troy. It's going to be one of the bigger mysteries of the season. So the Auburn win should bring them up. But the Troy win, while they're still a good Sun Belt team, they're probably, them and Arkansas State battle Saturday for a place to at least be co-Sun Belt champions, still brings them down. LSU still should not lose to Troy at home on homecoming. So I think they're kind of about where they deserve to be. Hey, Dustin, do you think that LSU's loss to Troy is what's keeping them so low in the rankings? Yes. Yes, I do. Should Boise State join the Pac-12 or even the Big 12? I'm not as big of a favor or big as a fan of the Big 12 move. Pac-12 makes sense, at least in football. I've talked about that on a couple of videos on the channel. It's more of, does the Pac-12 want Boise? If Clemson loses, would the college football playoff place them versus Bama in a bowl for the rematch? Great idea. Probably, possibly. If Clemson loses to Miami, Clemson will be in the Orange Bowl. And the Orange Bowl, so the SEC champion normally goes to the Sugar Bowl, but that's one of the playoff bowl games. So the Orange Bowl has ACC, the highest available, facing off against either the Big Ten, the SEC, or Notre Dame. Notre Dame's lost to Stanford, gets them out. They had a Big Ten team last year. So I would assume an SEC team would be in the Orange Bowl this year. So if Auburn beats Georgia, it'll either be between Georgia and Alabama. So I'm not entirely certain. They may want to go nostalgia for Georgia Clemson fans. My tongue isn't working right. For Georgia Clemson fans, and get a rivalry like that into the Orange Bowl, or they could go Clemson Alabama 3, knowing it'll draw ratings. It could be one of the other two. What is my Final Four? So I assume that's projecting who I think is going to win. I think right now, Clemson is going to beat Miami. I think Ohio State's going to beat Wisconsin. I think Oklahoma's going to beat TCU. I think, what's left? I do think USC is going to beat Stanford, even though that doesn't count in the Final Four. And Auburn will beat Georgia. So my Final Four is Clemson 1, Auburn 2, Oklahoma 3, Alabama 4. Is kind of how I think it's going to work. The chairman of the playoff committee kind of hinted that they're choosing to weigh conference championships this year, even though they didn't last year. So there's a chance Ohio State is a 4 instead. But I think if Alabama's at 5 right now, and Ohio State's at 8, and they beat the number 4 team, theoretically they should be number 4. But if you have disregarded and disrespected Wisconsin this entire year, this entire process and the votes, you can't be like, oh, Ohio State beat a great Wisconsin team, now we have to launch them 5 spots. No. You are the ones that kept saying that Wisconsin wasn't that great of a team. You have 2 1-loss and 1 2-loss team ahead of them right now. So if a 2-loss team beats them, moving them from 8 to 4 seems like a disservice to what they've been saying all year long. This committee doesn't make any sense because they moved Miami ahead of Clemson after Miami came from behind to beat Virginia and Clemson beat an FCS team 61-3. It doesn't make any sense. I feel like I think they just do whatever they think. I don't know. You think that we'll have the Clemson-Bama rematch in the playoffs? That's what the really interesting thing is going to be, is the seeding. So I don't think they care about the 4 best teams. I don't think they care about the 2 or 3 best. I think they care about the 2 or 3 best games. Let me get that straight. I don't think they care about the best teams. I don't think they care about the most deserving. I think they are put there as propaganda by the NCAA and the networks in order to get the most eyeballs on these games. So we're all looking at it as this team should be ahead of this team because of this. Cynically, I don't think they care. I don't think that's why they're there. I really don't. So Bama Clemson would bring in eyeballs. Bama Clemson 3. People are going to watch Bama Clemson 3. I think the most interesting four, and I said this in the last live stream too, I think. The most interesting four is Oklahoma, Auburn, Alabama, and Clemson. Because none of them like each other. But none of them like Ohio State either. So Auburn and Ohio State don't really have a connection, but SEC Big Ten, there's always a thing there. So, do I think Auburn is better than Georgia? I do think Auburn is better than Georgia. They proved it in the last game. So, what's really interesting, I feel like a lot of people think that Auburn is going to steamroll over Georgia again, and I don't quite think that's going to happen for a couple of reasons. One, there is more Georgia fans going to be in that stadium than Auburn fans probably, though it's not like Auburn is far from Atlanta, so I think it'll be closer to 50-50 than I've heard one person say it was going to be Georgia 70, Auburn 30 as far as crowd goes. I don't know about that. But if you remember in that game, Georgia had every opportunity to take the lead. They were down 16-10 at the half because their field goal kicker hit a field goal off the upright. Should have been 16-13. Auburn got the ball, went 3 and out, and then punted. Georgia fumbled the punt, and Auburn had a short field and jumped out 23-10. Georgia should have been up 20-16 in the third quarter, and all the momentum of that game would have been different. Once Auburn went up 23-10, the air got sucked out of Georgia's bench, and that was it, and Auburn just did whatever they wanted to. So if Georgia can get some kind of a running game, not have dumb penalties, dumb mistakes, dumb turnovers, missed field goals, dumb stuff like that, they can finish off drives, then it'll be a much closer game. But I do think Auburn is overall the better team. It will depend on Kerryon Johnson. He has a bum shoulder. Of course, Cameron Petway also has a bum shoulder. But if Kerryon Johnson can't go, it will change the entire dynamic of this game. I do trust Jared Stidham more than I trust Jake Farm, though. Favorite FCS school? Well, I grew up down the street from Furman. So Furman is my favorite FCS school. I had my senior prom at Furman. My graduation ceremony was at Furman. And then Wofford is right down the street also over in Spartanburg. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. John Greisbauer? Thank you. Also, Roll Tide. It was 23-7. You're right, 23-7. Henry. Who should Ohio State be rooting for, Auburn or Georgia? I'm not really sure it matters for Ohio State because the winner of that game's in, the loser is out. Regardless of, the loser is out, so it's not like you're going to be competing with the loser to get in. You'll be competing with Alabama, and Alabama wants Auburn to win because then they can say, well, our only loss is to a team in the playoffs. On the road, in a big environment, we have a banged-up defense, blah, blah, blah. And we're Alabama. Don't forget that we are the brand of college football right now, which is something that will go through the committee's heads. There's no way it won't. So, really, I guess, I said it doesn't matter, but I guess Ohio State should be rooting for Georgia. Because if Georgia's in, Alabama's loss looks worse and gives Ohio State the edge over them, even more so than they may already have. How do you think Penn State will do without Moorhead? I don't know. So it depends on how much talent sticks around on that side of the ball and who Franklin can get in there to be the offensive coordinator. But there's obviously he helped that offense tremendously. So I'm not entirely certain. It kind of depends on who they get next. Is Alabama still better than Auburn? No. No, Alabama's not better than Auburn. Auburn was clearly the better team on the field. Thanks, Micro Chunk. I appreciate it. Favorite bowl game of all time? So, I feel like that deserves two answers. I feel like that deserves, the bowl game and then a specific bowl game. Does that make sense? So, my favorite bowl game to watch year in and year out is the Rose Bowl. I feel like that doesn't count because it's probably everybody's favorite, so I'll probably say the Orange Bowl after that. I've been to the Orange Bowl. It was really fun. My favorite actual bowl game of all time is the USC-Texas 2006 Rose Bowl, the greatest game that I've ever seen played in my life. Other than that, I'll still watch the Miami-Ohio State. I think that was the Orange Bowl. Miami-Ohio State Orange Bowl, where it was a pass interference that wasn't. It was not pass interference, and they threw the flag and kept the game going. It's probably my favorite. I got some of y'all answering the question. 2014 Sugar Bowl. That was Oklahoma, Alabama, right? Yep, Trevor Knight. 2008 Capital One Bowl. 1998 Rose Bowl. Hey, Dustin, do you think rumors of Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan for the Chicago Bears are true? No, I haven't heard that. I don't think he should. I think he should. I mean, he's a Michigan man, so I assume he'll try to hang out there. But if he leaves without really accomplishing anything in Michigan, I think it's going to tarnish his whole shtick. His whole career is going to be tarnished a little bit. So I would say stay. Furman or Wofford in the FCS playoff game. I'm vaguely pulling for Furman by just a little bit more than Wofford, but I think Wofford's going to take it. Wofford has looked good all year long. They dropped that fluky game at the end to Samford, I think. Furman had to beat Elon by a blocked extra point to get into this game, but it's at Wofford. But I assume a lot of Furman guys. I mean, it's a 30-minute drive from Furman to Wofford. But I think Wofford will probably take it. Which championship games are you looking forward to? Mine would be SEC, ACC, and American. The answer is all of them. I know that seems like such a cop-out, but a lot of these are rematches from earlier in the year, so it doesn't seem as intriguing, but I think it's more intriguing. Look at the Mountain West. Boise State and Fresno State played last week, and it's going to be a completely different game this week. The Georgia-Auburn game you saw 3 weeks ago is going to be a completely different game than the one you see on Saturday. The Stanford-USC game is going to be completely different. Like, KJ didn't even play in that first game. So, Clemson-Miami. I think that one's going to be. I'm pretty confident Clemson's going to take it. Not only has Clemson looked better for a majority of the season, even though they did lose to Syracuse, the Miami-Virginia game kind of exposed the Hurricanes a little bit, kind of caught up. Clemson tends to jump out of the gate in some games pretty quickly and has the kind of defense and run game that can wear you down and milk the clock. Dabo has been to this game before. This is nothing new for the players. And for some reason, Clemson seems to perform better since the 2012 Orange Bowl when they lost to West Virginia 70-33. Clemson has played better in bowl games. I don't think they've, other than the national championship game, I'm not even sure they've lost a bowl game since. They play very well. They prepare very well for bowl games. So I think Clemson is just going to be a little too much for Miami. But the SEC championship is going to be fun to watch. The American championship is going to be fun to watch. That's another rematch. UCF and Memphis are both very different teams than they were when they played, September 30th, I think. So it's going to be really fun. You need to watch the Pac-12 championship too. Stanford USC is going to be really fun too. Favorite lower than FCS school, i.e. Division III. So to be honest with you, I don't really know a lot. But my cousin played at Lenoir-Rhyne at Division II. So default, I have to pick them. D3, we don't, in South Carolina, we don't have any D2 or D3 schools, I don't think. So I've never had one to care about growing up. So D3, I guess I'll say, Wisconsin Whitewater. They had the flea flicker a decade ago. Or the 14 laterals or something. I just kind of default to that, I guess. Do you think Oklahoma can beat Auburn? That is the question. So, if you're one of those top three teams, if you're Clemson, Auburn, or Oklahoma, you're going to start looking at what matchups do you want. That's kind of who you're rooting for this weekend. Clemson sitting at 1 will play number 4. So, if you're Clemson, you really want Wisconsin to win. Because I think Clemson against Wisconsin, I think Clemson would beat Wisconsin a lot easier than they would beat Alabama or Auburn or Oklahoma. So Clemson, you want Wisconsin. Oklahoma and Auburn is going to be such a good game. So, and it's going to be at the Rose Bowl. Such a good game. Can Oklahoma win? Yes. Auburn will be the toughest defense they will have played all year. And depending on injuries with running backs at Auburn, they could kind of control the ball and keep it away from Baker Mayfield. I think the point spread on that would open up at Auburn probably about 5 points favored, something I would guess. But can Oklahoma win? Yes. If I had to put money on the game, I would probably pick Auburn right now, but that depends on factors like injuries as well. What Power 5 team has a bright future that may look bad right now? Minnesota. I think Minnesota is going to be better over the next few years. I think Cal is going to look really good over the next few years. Florida, technically, they look bad right now, but with Dan Mullen, I think they will correct themselves. From Walhalla, did you go to W? No, I did not go to Daniel. I'm from Greenville. Nuke Hopkins went to Daniel, though. Get ready for the fall of Ole Miss. Yeah. The Matt Luke hire, or I guess not really, they took the interim tag off of him. I'm cynical. I'm a very cynical person these days. I think that they're just like, hey, you're going to be the fall guy. We're going to take, they didn't tell him that. But they're like, we're going to take the interim tag off of you. We're going to let the sanctions hit. You're going to suck it up for 2 years. We're going to fire you, and then we're going to get somebody else in there. It's kind of the way I looked at it. I was like, that is not an inspiring hire by them. JT Barrett is playing after minor knee surgery. Do you think he'll be limited? I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know how you could have... I don't know what surgery he had. They're saying he's going to be perfectly fine by the time the game starts on Saturday night. I don't see how, but I don't know if he'll be limited, but I can tell you that if he is not limited, I'm putting Haskins in. The second I see him avoid taking a cut on that knee, I'm putting Haskins in. Do you think Nebraska will have a good season next year? Off the top of my head, probably not. Regardless of their coach, they're gonna have some building to do, some recruiting to do. They might. A bowl game would be a win for them next year. Think of Nebraska kind of like Texas, how Texas is this year. A lot of people expected Texas to go 9-3 this year. I don't know why. They have to get some time, even with a really good head coach. It baffles me that Baker Mayfield is going to win the Heisman, but Deshaun lost to Derrick Henry. I don't see the correlation. Baker Mayfield right now is far above everybody else as far as everything on the field. Off the field, you can feel free to argue, but on the field, he has everything going for him that you want in a Heisman winner. Nobody else really quite meets all the criteria and the way he does. And Deshaun losing to Derrick Henry, I actually did a video, that was my first fall on this channel. I did videos about all those Heisman winners, and statistically Derrick Henry should have won that one too. But again, if they gave the Heisman out at the end of the year like they should, I actually still think Derrick Henry would have won that one. Maybe not, because Deshaun played like hell in the Oklahoma and Alabama games. But I do think Deshaun would have won it last year. I have a really itchy nose tonight. I'm sorry. What conference in the FCS will Idaho go to? I believe they're going back to the Big Sky Conference. I don't know FCS conferences off the top of my head, but I want to say it's the Big Sky. Do you think that since the playoffs happened that people stopped caring about bowl games? During the BCS era, going to the big bowl games actually meant something to teams instead of not getting in. I think it's watered it down some. Obviously, the playoff games are elevated much, much more than the BCS championship game was. But I mean, I don't think it doesn't matter. I think going to the Orange Bowl is still a really big deal. People still really care about those games, still really watch them. But if you're talking about Orange Bowl 2003 versus Orange Bowl 2018, yeah, there's probably a little bit of a drop off. But I don't, as fans, I don't think we care. The only way I think you care is if you're number 5 or 6, like you were almost there, then you might not be as inspired to play in the bowl game. I answered this at the very beginning of the stream, but I'll say it again here. I just lost it. But it was, it said here it goes. If you were Mike Gundy, would you have left Oklahoma State for Tennessee? No way. No way. I wouldn't have even picked up the phone when they called. I wouldn't have even talked to them. Just saying, I believe Deshaun is much better than Derrick Henry. And that's a fair point. Derrick Henry that year, he broke 2,000 yards. He broke Herschel Walker's SEC rushing record, though he did it with more games. But I think he did it on less carries, so there was that. But Deshaun was lights out in the playoffs, and he beat South Carolina on an ACL or torn ACL. Do you think some 6-6 teams will be picked to go to bowls ahead of teams with greater wins due to money? I don't think so. I think that there is a contract clause in there. I may be wrong about that, but I feel like 7-5 teams have to get picked for most bowl games before 6-6 teams. I might just be saying that because I can never remember a 7-5 team not making it to a bowl game. But, yeah. 101 people watching. Now it's 107. Yeah, thank you guys. If you're enjoying the stream, by the way, hit the thumbs up. If for some reason you're watching the stream and have not subscribed, definitely make sure to do that as well. What if the top 4 all lose? I started the stream by answering a question like that. North Dakota State's still in the FCS to FBS talk. So that kind of talk has kind of died down over the last year or two, ever since the Big 12 announced they weren't expanding. But whenever that cranks back up in 21, 22, 23, those years, they'll be back in that talk, yeah. Favorite college football player? I don't really have one. I used to have those like a lot when I was like growing up, but I don't know. I kind of root for teams now. I root for individual players to play well, but I don't really think I have like a favorite one anymore. Excuse me. Coaches that have turned down Tennessee. David Cutcliffe. I forgot about David Cutcliffe. I forgot about Matt Campbell. Dan Mullen, Mike Gundy, Jeff Brom, Dave Doran. That's what, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 6. Technically, I heard that Kevin Sumlin turned him down. I guess you could count Greg Schiano because they didn't get him. Man, they really are. They're on like their 9th or 10th choice for their head coach. It's crazy. Do I think Pitt will go to a bowl game just because of the win over Miami? No. I think they are they 4-8? No, they will not go to a bowl game. What would happen if the worst FCS team faced the worst FBS team? The FBS team would beat them 56-3 probably. It'd be interesting to figure out statistically who is the worst of each. Who do I think will win it all? To be honest with you, I've been so focused on the 4 teams, I haven't actually thought about who would win it all. If the playoffs started right now and the top 4 were Clemson and Wisconsin in the Sugar Bowl and Auburn and Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl, right now I would probably say Auburn and Clemson move on to the national championship. And I'm going to give the edge to Clemson to win the national championship. They beat them in the regular season, but they're two totally different teams. But I do think Clemson has the better defense. And their defense is, I don't know. I don't have to qualify it. Clemson. How about that? Clemson by a field goal. Is Ryan Finley going to the NFL? I don't know. I don't think he should. I think he needs some more reps. He went a long time without throwing an interception this year, but I don't want him to have the learning curve that Mitch Trubisky has had at times. Do you think that the group of 5 should have a playoff? Nope. I don't know what the trophy would be. Pitt's 5-7. Okay, yeah. There's too many 6-6 teams. They're not eligible. Yeah, they're 5-7. Will Mike Riley coach in 2018? Probably somewhere. I don't know if he'll be a head coach. He may have to do that whole drop down to the coordinator level and kind of clean the stink off of him a little bit before nice guying it back up to a head coaching job. I don't know where. I don't know who would want him at the Power 5 level anyway. If Tennessee offered Josh McDaniels, do you think they could get him? I don't know. I don't know who would want Tennessee, to be completely honest with you. I joked around with somebody on Twitter yesterday. I was like, I'm mad that they didn't ask me. I feel like they're going to get to me soon. I'm probably on their radar. John Curry probably has my name somewhere on a whiteboard in his office. I completely agree, Dustin. Thank you. I don't know what to, but I will always accept when people agree with me. Do you think the Central Florida can keep their winning streak going? I do. The Central Florida team we saw play South Florida last Friday will beat Memphis. Memphis is a really good team, but it'll be kind of on Riley Ferguson's arm to see what he can do. But Mackenzie Milton is probably going to outduel him, if I had to guess. Favorite college fight songs? The answer is Hail to the Victors. Yeah, I agree. I was telling my brother last week that that's the best fight song in college football, actually. If Ohio State wins a close game, do you think them or Alabama will get the 4th spot? That's the big question of this weekend. If you want to look for if you only had to watch one game to try to figure out what was going to happen in the rest of the playoffs, that's the game to watch, is the Big Ten Championship, because part of the reason why the committee justified sliding Ohio State in 2014, even though they probably shouldn't have, in my opinion, was they beat Wisconsin 59-0 with a third-string quarterback. Okay, so if they stomp Wisconsin Saturday, it'll be kind of the same argument that the committee made for them in 2014. Especially if, for some reason, JT Barrett can't complete the game and Dwayne Haskins has to come in. But I don't know. Going from 8-4 and jumping Alabama at 5 doesn't seem like something that should happen, but it doesn't. I don't think the committee cares. Do I watch Uncle Lou? I don't know what that is, so no. Should Tennessee hire Scott Frost? Good luck, Tennessee. Yeah, they should if they could, but they can't. Who was a bigger disappointment, Florida or North Carolina? They were both pretty bad. I'm going to go with Florida just because they were in a worse division. So there were some that should have been guaranteed wins in there. And they were coming off 2 straight East titles. So I'm probably going to say Florida over North Carolina. But North Carolina finishing up, was it 3-9? 4-8? I think it was 3-9. Came to complete shock with me. Memphis is going to upset them. I mean, I can see that happening too. I feel like UCF is going to win, especially with it being in Orlando. Who do you think UCF should go after? Some UCF diehards really want Kevin Sumlin. No offense, Kalen. I don't see Sumlin dropping down to the group of 5 level if he can help it. I feel like he really had his heart set on Arizona State, and apparently that's going to Herm Edwards, which, okay. Everything I've said in a couple of videos about Tennessee wanting John Gruden and that being a ridiculous idea, I think it's more ridiculous to get Herm Edwards. He is not coached as long as John Gruden has, and he was worse in the pros than John Gruden was. That doesn't make sense. I think I've heard somebody say, maybe it was in this stream, should UCF go after Lane Kiffin? They should. It's kind of a lateral move, though. It doesn't really promote him. So for UCF, they're probably going to try to grab some kind of a coordinator, I would assume. The state of Alabama has the greatest college football team since the last 8 years. If you think about it, Alabama is always in playoff talk, and Auburn wins champ when Alabama can't. So, yeah, the winner of the Iron Bowl since 2008 has played, that's not true, since 2009 has played for a national championship, or at least gotten in the playoffs, I think, which is just a weird statistic. Dustin, what team should hire Scott Frost? Any team that can get him. So Nebraska. He's going to Nebraska. He said something in a, not an interview, a press conference today. It sounded very much like he was already out the door. So I hope that's not influencing his coaching and preparation for the American Championship game. Super Bowl predictions? I don't know. I want to tell you Eagles Patriots. That didn't work out for the Eagles so well last time. But I just have this weird feeling that the Saints are going to knock the Eagles out of the playoffs. If UCF wins this week and beats a top team like Georgia in the Peach Bowl, should they be in the playoff talk for next year? Well, they're not going to have their head coach, so probably not. But if for some reason they did go 12-0, 13-0 next year, they'll be in the playoff. If UCF wins 26 straight games or something, they'll be in the playoff next year. I just don't know if that's going to happen. Dustin, is it your dream to be on College Game Day? It'll be cool. I've been to a bunch of them. It'll be cool to be on it. It's never going to happen. I can't even imagine a world in which ESPN brings in a YouTuber to be a guest picker. Can't even fathom it. What do you think of Lincoln Riley so far at OU? Perfectly fine. He's done everything that's been asked of him except for beat Iowa State, which, Iowa State's a good team. Kind of a fluky game. But, yeah, he's done everything he's supposed to do. I don't totally like his response to Baker Mayfield's stunt against Kansas, where he was basically like, well, they're asking for it. But then he took away the captaincy and all that, so that's fine. But yeah, as far as I can tell over here in South Carolina, I'm not around the program or anything, but yeah, he's done everything right. Do you think, I feel like I barked when I said yeah. I was like, yeah. Do you think Lane Kiffin stays at FAU? They could be really good if he stays next year. I don't know. I kind of thought when he went to FAU that this would be a one-year gig and he would find somewhere else that opened up, but I kind of thought he would go to like an Ole Miss or an Arkansas or something like that. I'm not quite sure if that's going to happen now, but with Lane Kiffin, you never know. Have y'all been watching, following his Twitter and seeing the stuff he's been doing to Saban? Talking about rat poison, and he's trolling Saban, and then somebody was like, hey, why are you trolling Saban? And he's like, Saban doesn't even know what Twitter is. You can't troll someone that doesn't know you exist. They did it with a Twitch streamer? Is that ESPN you're talking about? They did it with a Twitch streamer? I don't watch game day. I'm a night owl, so I typically wake up like right when the game starts at noon. I just haven't been watching game day much this year. Heisman prediction, I think it's Baker Mayfield. I think he's going to win it by a good bit, too. I don't think it's really going to be that close. I think probably... I really hope they invite 5 people. But I think Saquon's probably going to be number 2 because he does a little bit of everything, and that's enough to wow voters, and he's at Penn State, and he's a running back, and blah, 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 blah. But I had Mason Rudolph as my number 2 and Bryce Love as 3. And I assume they will get invited. So hopefully they invite 5. It'll be interesting to see who the 5th player is that's invited. Khalil Tate got a lot of love. I don't think his stats are quite there. But yeah. Do you see every conference championship as lose and you're out? Yes. Yep. Every single one's lose and you're out. Is Missouri good? Yeah, they're good. They're not great. They're fun. Drew Lock is really fun to watch. If you haven't watched a Missouri game over the last half of the season, don't watch the first half. They're atrocious. Don't watch that Purdue game. But if you watch the last 6 games or so, they're really fun to watch. That's why I put them in my next 5 up. Just fun. Next 5 up in the top 25 poll doesn't matter. I just threw them in there. They're fun. Hillary Clinton declined the Tennessee job. Yeah, so did Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-il? Whoever the fat, dumb dictator in North Korea is. He's going to watch this and send poison to my house now. Do you think Dave Doran is the right man for NC State? No. No, I don't think Dave Doran's the right man for anything. I don't like him as a person, and I don't think he's that great of a coach. NC State can do better. Jonathan Taylor, hello? Yeah, Jonathan Taylor would be the number 5. Probably. That kid has so much upside. He's just a freshman. I think Jonathan Taylor was 5 in my poll, too. Jonathan Taylor, not Thomas. Do you think they put Fresno State number 25 because in your poll they're number 25? Or I think you messed up. Do you think they put Fresno State should be number 25? Yeah, I mean, Fresno State, 2 of their 3 losses are to Alabama and Washington. Their only other loss was to UNLV, which is not a great loss. But they beat Boise, they beat Wyoming. Yeah, pretty sure they played Wyoming. So they beat some good teams in the conference. And it's not like you'd put them at 10 or anything. 25, they're a solid team. And they get a chance to win again, get their 10th win. 2 of them over Boise. Jimbo Fisher to A&M. Yes, I think that's probably going to happen. I give a shout out to my brother who first pitched the idea to me a couple weeks ago. It wasn't like he didn't come up with the idea. He had read it somewhere. But when he first said it, I was like, get out of here, man. Why would he do that? And then it was stuff about the contract, and if he fires the assistant coaches, which he has to do, he has to fire coordinators because you can't go 6-6 at Florida State. If he has to fire coordinators, and that apparently comes out of his contract. And then there's all that stuff that supposedly happened with his ex-wife and players and whatever. He got a divorce. So my brother was like, why would you want to be around a place that just reminds you of all that? Yeah, it makes sense. Already won a national championship at Florida State. It's not like everybody there hates him, right? So he's going to leave, and people are going to respect him. So gets to go to Texas A&M for more money and a more competitive conference. A&M would be happy with a 10-2 season. Florida State, not as much. What playoff matchup do you want to see? I really want to see Auburn-Oklahoma. I think that would be a really fun game. Really, Auburn, Clemson, and Oklahoma. Any of those 3, which it looks like that's at least going to happen. Yeah, that would be fun. Most future potential in the Pac-12, Cal. I think Cal in the North, and we will have to see who Arizona State hires in the South. But I do think Cal, in the next 2 or 3 years, probably closer to 2 years, especially depending on what happens with Willie Taggart up at Oregon, could be competing for a Pac-12 championship. Do you think Ohio State's Iowa loss will be overlooked by their wins over Michigan and Michigan State and Penn State? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's why they're down at 8th. But if they beat Wisconsin and the committee loves Ohio State, this is an unpopular opinion, but in my opinion, they should have never been in the playoffs. They shouldn't have been in yet. I know they won the 2014 title, so I know that they were the best team. Although I think TCU was probably the best team in 2014, but I feel like they're going to try to get Ohio State in. That loss was a bad loss. Iowa's a pretty average team. Not great, not bad, but to lose like that on the road big, ugh. Do you think the Big 12 adding a conference championship game was a good move? TCU and Baylor couldn't get in because there was none, and Oklahoma won't get in if they lose the championship game to TCU. That's, it's the same thing when the Bacon McSugar Nuggets. It's the same argument they had in 92 for the SEC. If Florida had beaten Alabama, it would have looked like the worst idea in the history of ideas in college football. The Big 12 has a little bit of a history of teams ready to go for the national championship and then losing in the conference championship game and getting knocked out. Missouri in 2007 jumps out to me immediately. I think that happened to Oklahoma. No, they got beat by Kansas State and still got in. But no, I don't think it was a mistake. You have to get more revenue. You have to get more eyeballs, more intrigue, more money. What do you think was the biggest shock in college football this year? That's an interesting question. I didn't see Wisconsin going 12-0, but I'm not sure that was quite a shock. My nose is so dang itchy, like inside and outside. Biggest shock. I'll have to think about that. I'm not sure. Biggest shock in college football. If you would have told me a 2-loss team would be in the playoff, I'm not sure I would have believed it. Maybe that. Do you think Fresno State is at 25 just for Alabama's resume? No, I do not. I do not. And I love conspiracy theories. I will spin conspiracy theories. But that one is not. I do think they deserve to be in the top 25. Clemson is going to beat Miami 58-0. Not this time. Not quite. In case you don't remember the last time they played in 2015, Clemson gave Miami their worst ACC loss, their worst home loss, and was the reason that Al Golden was fired, which worked out because they got Mark Richt. But yeah, not 58-0 this time. It'll be interesting to see if Miami beats their chest a lot before this game like they did that game. Is Penn State the best 2-loss team? No, I think Auburn is the best 2-loss team. How do you feel about Florida signing Dan Mullen? I think it was a really good hire. I talked about that a little earlier in the stream, but I think that's a really good hire. Should Auburn be number 1? You can call me old school if you want. I don't think so. I have them at 4 in my playoff, like in my top 25. The 2 losses, I can't just erase that they lost to a Clemson team, which, by the way, that Clemson team is not as good as the one that's playing right now. That Auburn team is not nearly as good as the one playing right now either. But I can't just ignore that they lost to Clemson. I can't just ignore that they lost to LSU after blowing a 20-0 lead. So, no, I don't have Auburn number 1. I don't think they should be number 1. I think Oklahoma should be number 1. But what are you going to do? Jonathan Taylor or J.K. Dobbins? That kind of depends on what kind of offense you want to run. So, I mean, it seems like a cop-out, but if you're going to have just a downfield running game with a quarterback that, if he played at Alabama, they would call him a game manager, like Wisconsin does, then you want Jonathan Taylor. If you want a more dynamic running back that can catch the ball, spread him all over the field, then you want J.K. Dobbins. In an offense that I would take J.K. Dobbins. Clemson 35, Miami 38? Possibly. Do I think Purdue will be good again? I do. As long as Jeff Brom is there. I believe in Jeff Brom. Who do I have for the Mountain West Championship? It's going to be hard not to pick Fresno, right? They got screwed, by the way. Fresno State did. That game should be in Fresno. It should not be in Boise. How are they going to finish with the same record, both out of overall record and conference record, and Fresno beat Boise and move the game to Boise? There's something sketchy there. But yeah, I have Fresno. They beat Boise by more than one possession last week. Boise was in line for New Year's Six bowl bid potentially if they could have won out. So I certainly don't think they were playing dead for this game. So I have Fresno. It'll be a different game though. Whoa, chat went up and down. Yeah, a lot of y'all seem to think that they put Fresno in there just for Alabama. I don't think so. I really don't. I love conspiracy theories. I'll talk about conspiracy theories. I think they put South Carolina in to give Clemson another ranked win last week. So, yeah, I'll talk conspiracy theories. And we'll see what happens with Iowa. If they end up slipping Iowa in or something to help Ohio State, I can see them doing that too. But I don't think if Fresno State, are they one of the 25 best teams in the country? I don't know. Probably not. But again, 2 of their losses are to Alabama and Washington, which, if you're a group of 5 team, is totally forgivable. They lost a weird fluky game to UNLV. That's not a good loss. But at the end of the day, they're a 9-3 team. A lot of 9-3 teams are going to be ranked. So I don't see it as a conspiracy theory, but if you do, that's fine. I love the confidence from whatever to watch. How do you think Georgia will do in their playoff game? If I were to be honest with you right now, I think Georgia loses against any of the teams in the top 3. So I think they're going to lose to Auburn. But I do think it's going to be closer than a lot of people expect. It's just hard to know with Georgia because the one big game they played was against Auburn and they got crushed. They beat a really good Mississippi State team at home badly. I think it was 31-3. The Auburn game, I do think it was more of a game of momentum than of a lot of other things, and they had to put the entire game on Jake Fromm's shoulder in enemy territory, which they probably won't have to do Saturday. But we'll see. Herm Edwards went to ASU. What do you think? Yeah, I think that's weird. I don't necessarily... I mean, I do like Kevin Sumlin. I do think he's a good coach. If it was between Herm Edwards, who hasn't coached in a decade and hasn't coached in the college ranks since 1989, or Kevin Sumlin, who led Houston to a 12-1 record, and A&M, won a Heisman Trophy there, I'm picking Kevin Sumlin, but hey, do what you got to do. I also probably wouldn't have offered the job to Todd Graham 1 year after he was at Pitt. I don't know. How good is Bama really? Asked the real Lincoln Riley. I don't know that question either, the answer to that question. So you have to start every conversation when talking about Alabama acknowledging that they have a lot of injuries, specifically on the defense. So there is that. I don't know if Alabama has the ball at the 5 with 45 seconds to go and no timeouts, could Jalen Hurts throw the ball down the field, multiple passes, not just one long ball that Calvin Ridley shake somebody, and score a touchdown to win the game? I don't think so. I don't think... do I think A.J. McCarron could have done that? Yes. If A.J. McCarron was on this team, do they lose in the Iron Bowl? I don't know. Maybe not. Would they have beaten Clemson last year? I think so. So at times, Jalen Hurts is kind of a liability. So when you say, how good is Bama really? They have defensive injuries, which they can't really help. A lot of those guys are going to be back for whatever the bowl game is, whether it's the playoff or a New Year's Six game. But Jalen Hurts, kind of shaky sometimes in the passing game. So if Alabama played Oklahoma, Clemson, or Auburn, do I think that the team we saw last week, they wouldn't beat any of them. All of those teams would beat them by double digits, which Auburn did. But if they had time to rest, I just don't know, because Alabama's schedule this year wasn't that competitive. So, hello, Elijah Smith. Do you think Nebraska will do well next year with Scott Frost, with this year being undefeated? I mean, no, probably not. I don't think Nebraska should expect Scott Frost to get there and them to go 10-2. Or something crazy, win the West next year. It's not going to happen. It's going to take a year or two for him to get his guys in there, for him to build a culture. UCF is at the group of 5 level, so when you play Temple, it's a lot easier than you playing Wisconsin and Northwestern and Iowa. Okay, maybe Illinois. Maybe Illinois is like Temple. But, yeah. How do you feel about San Diego State in the Mountain West? I like it. I think it's fine. Not quite sure the question. Yeah, that would be fine. Do you think TCU could get into the playoffs if they won big and Wisconsin lost? No, I think TCU's out. TCU's out, USC's out, Stanford's out. Theoretically, Ohio State at 8 almost should be out, but they're not. Stupid nose. Boo-hoo, Bama had to put in their other 5-star linebackers or maybe a 4-star from the practice squad. Yes, so they put in really talented people, but if you have really talented people, but they don't know what the hell they're doing because they barely get any practice time, it doesn't really matter how talented they are if they don't know what's going on in a Nick Saban defense. I mean, you have to play to know what you're doing. So, Clemson, Auburn, Oklahoma, and Ohio State lose. Does Wisconsin get the 1 spot? Probably not. They would probably put Georgia and Miami ahead of them. Even though they shouldn't, I would have Wisconsin 1. Can Clemson still get in if they lose and 2 or more of the top 4 teams lose? No. If Clemson loses, they're out. If Miami loses, they're out. Georgia loses, they're out. Auburn loses, they're out. So if all 4 of the playoff teams look like poop in their their bowl games, would Penn State get in? I believe that's a little too late there, Justin. Sometimes I think Alabama cheats and pays officials. No, they don't. No, they don't. What's up, young Steph? What's up, Jessica Phillips? Thoughts on Lovie Smith? None good. I thought that was a really weird hire. I certainly didn't think he would crap the bed at Illinois as much as he has. Grant Ritter, Nick Saban, Urban Meyer rematch. I don't know what that means. Are you asking me who I thought would win? Are you asking me do I hope that happens? I am not sure. How do you think Ryan Leaf will do at Tennessee? As great as he did at the Chargers. What is the highest rank UCF can get? I don't know. I mean, they're only at 14 now, and they probably should be right there at the 10 or 11 mark. So probably 11 or 12, even though they should sneak into the top 10 by the end of the year if they finish 13-0. Why is Rutgers the greatest Big Ten team of this generation? Scarlet Knights, man. Covered in the blood of their enemies. I think that's why they're the Scarlet Knights, right? Better resume, Auburn, Clemson, or Oklahoma? In my opinion, Oklahoma. Because Oklahoma's win over Ohio State was on the road against what will probably end up being the Big Ten champion. Clemson's win over Auburn was a doo-doo fest, 14-6. It was not a fun game to watch. At home, even though Auburn went on to do what they did, Clemson lost to Syracuse. I'm not going to forget that. The committee has totally forgotten about that. I'm not going to forget that. Oklahoma's loss was to a much better Iowa State team. So I think Oklahoma has the better resume. And then Auburn beat Alabama. Who else did Auburn beat? Mississippi State? Okay. Missouri? Looks better now than it did when they beat them. Thoughts on Louisville, excuse me. They are Lamar Jackson and 21 other people right now. That poor kid. He's the hardest working guy in college football. To do what he's done, to put up the numbers he has, and for Louisville just to kind of suck it up a lot of the year. The win against Kentucky was very cathartic, I bet. But, yeah, it's Louisville is nothing but Lamar Jackson at this point. That's why I think Bobby Petrino is leaving. I think he's done. I think he's going to bolt. But that's also because I have no faith that Bobby Petrino has any loyalty to anything or anybody, and I do think he will leave whenever he can. I'm surprised he's not trying to get the Tennessee job. Illinois versus Kansas, who will win? Ooh, I don't know. I think Illinois has 2 wins on the year and Kansas has 1, so I'm going to give the Illini the benefit of the doubt there. Dustin, do you think Oklahoma can beat Alabama? Yeah, I do. I absolutely think they do. Can Baker Mayfield beat Alabama's defense? Yes. Yes, they can. The question is, can Oklahoma slow down Alabama's power run game, especially with Jalen Hurts? That I'm not as sure about. But if Oklahoma can score fast, which may actually be to their detriment in that game, but yeah, I think Oklahoma could beat Alabama. I don't know if they'd be favored, but yeah. Will Jeff Brom go to Louisville? Yeah, if he has the chance, he will. I think. Why wouldn't he? No one likes Bobby Petrino anyways. Yeah, he's a dick. Do I think Lamar Jackson will go to the NFL? I don't know. I mean, yeah, he'll go to the NFL. The answer is yes. His stats are so much better this year than they were last year. In both running and passing, he's much more accurate. He stands in the pocket more. There's just something that makes me think he's not going to be an NFL quarterback. And I don't know, maybe he has a little bit of, I don't know this is conjecture. He might have like a little bit of Tim Tebow in him where he's like, I'm a quarterback. I'm not a tight end. I'm not a running back. I'm not a wide receiver. I'm a quarterback. And if that's the case, maybe not. Favorite team to watch this season? Man, I just kind of would just watch football. There wasn't like a team that I had to watch. I've gotten to this weird, mostly objective place where I just kind of watch football. I don't want to cop out of the answer. So we'll say most fun team to watch. Missouri. Because you had no idea what Missouri was going to do. Will Auburn be able to perform without Kerryon Johnson? I'm not sure if they'll be as great. He really put the team on his shoulder after that Alabama game. Yeah. So his stats in the Alabama game didn't look good. It was like 30 rushes for 104 yards and a touchdown. But if you watched the Iron Bowl, which everybody did, it was the highest, most watched college football regular season game since the Kick Six game, I think. I may be wrong on that. But yeah, he was the reason why, especially in that first half. Alabama had no answer for him. He may have only gotten 5 yards on the carry, but he got the ball, and there was 2 Alabama defenders right there, and he would split them and run for 5. It just seemed like he could almost do whatever he wanted until he got hurt. If he can't play against Georgia, that is tough. That is really tough. How do you feel that there has not been a close first-round playoff game yet? That's not entirely certain. You have an Alabama icon, profile pic by your name. You remember the Ohio State game. Alabama was up 21-6 before Ohio State came back to win. So that game was that game was close. It was by the very end of the fourth quarter when Zeke ran off like an 82-yard touchdown run. The game was over, but it was 28-21 or something, 28-18 or something. I'd still consider that close, within striking distance. Oklahoma led Clemson in 2015 at the half in the Orange Bowl before Clemson came back and scored 20 points in the second half. So, it depends on your definition of close. It does give more credence to the people that say we should not expand. Do you think Colorado State will be more consistent next year and maybe win the Mountain West? I don't know about consistent. I like what Mike Bobo is building out there. That's a tough conference. I get the Mountain West division's really mixed up because it's Mountain and West. And so I can't remember. I want to say Wyoming is in their division and Boise is in their division. So it's a tough division within that conference. And then they play Colorado every year too. But, they got the brand new shiny stadium. That looked really pretty. When did I start YouTube? The fall of 2005. So I started this channel on August 30th, 2015, and my first upload was like November 4th or something. You can go back, if you click on my videos from my homepage on here, you can go to sort by oldest, and you can see when I uploaded my first video. But I didn't really start taking it very seriously. Last football season, kind of, but I was really inconsistent. But really, when August hit this year is when I really tried to be really more consistent. Can we all agree anyone who loves Alabama and doesn't live in Alabama is a bandwagoner? Nope. That's not true. What if both of your parents graduate from Alabama, but you live in California? I've been a Philadelphia Eagles fan my entire life. I've never been to a game in Philadelphia. So no, I don't think so. I don't think Baker Mayfield is going to be a good NFL quarterback. He is too short. That is going to be one of the knocks against him. Also, temperament. That's something that people are going to... Everything that happened in the Kansas game, GMs are not going to tolerate that kind of crap. So, it'll be interesting to see his combine and see what his strength, his pocket presence, and all that when they're under scrutiny. Should Tennessee pull the trigger and hire Les Miles? Hell yeah, they should hire Les Miles. Les Miles, I would take Les Miles before I would take Dave Doran, who they were talking to. I would take Les Miles before I took Greg Schiano, who they hired. I would take Les Miles before I took Jeff Brom right now, just because he's more proven. In fact, I would almost say if they end up hiring Les Miles, John Curry should absolutely get fired. You had Les Miles this whole time, and you were going to hire Greg Schiano? Are you effing kidding me? So I actually think doing a home run hire for Tennessee like Les Miles would probably be actually is worse than if they got a really bad coach for John Curry. I think he has screwed this thing up royally. Is it weird to think the winner of the SEC title game will have worn their home uniforms? Don't know what that means. I assume that means Auburn's winning it, or whoever you're rooting for. There was a weird stat where the winner of the SEC championship for like 12 straight years won their home uniforms. Because whenever the West won it, or whenever the West lost it, LSU was the West team and they got to wear their white. Who is going to the Citrus Bowl? So I don't know. Bowl projections are not my thing. There's just too many variables involved in it. The last I heard, kind of shocking to me, was South Carolina and Notre Dame. That's the last I heard. Les Miles may go to Florida State. Well, that would be something. That would be interesting. I've heard Florida State's going to try to go after Willie Taggart of Oregon, though. Will Auburn let their ego get in their own way when they play Georgia? I don't know what that means. As far as play calling, I guess? Do you think they're going to try to throw the ball too much? Does NC State have a chance next year? No. This was the year for NC State. With all the seniors they had on their team, this was the year. Dave Doran, I don't believe in Dave Doran. So this is this was it for NC State. Greg Schiano would have been a bad head coach. We've seen that. Tennessee fans are crazy, though. Yeah. And Tennessee fans, your outrage over Greg Schiano, while totally understandable about him not wanting to be your head coach, it scared away Mike Gundy. It scared away Jeff Brom. You're going to get somebody, you may get somebody worse. If it's Les Miles, not. But you may get somebody worse than Dave Doran. The Citrus Bowl is ACC or Notre Dame versus the SEC. Yep, so there you go. Apparently, Texas A&M offered Jimbo a 10-year deal to be the head coach. I could see that. I don't know how. That's a long time. I think I read 5 years, $7 million a year deal. Will Pitt get a third straight top 2 win? I don't know. It depends on their schedule. It depends on who they play next year. Let's see what their schedule looks like. Because I know they'll play Miami and Virginia Tech. Just for fun. Notre Dame's not going to be number 2. They get Virginia Tech. Out of the Atlantic, they get Syracuse and Wake Forest. They are not going to be number 2. So probably not. That is funny, though. Oh, so speaking of Auburn, today is the 4-year anniversary of the Kick Six. So I wanted to ask where you guys were when the Kick Six happened. I obviously, I'm pretty sure you remember where you were. It's one of those like flashbulb moments. Wait a few seconds for the chat to come in. $102 people watching. Nice. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Again, I'm going to be doing another live stream Sunday. I'm shooting for 11 a.m., maybe 11:30 Eastern time, so 8:30 Pacific. But we'll see. Up in my theater room screaming on my coach, Justin. I assume you mean couch. On your coach changes everything. What is the Kick Six? Well, you see, the Kick Six. Sitting on my couch, my grandparents' basement with my family, my brother's dorm. It's at my house, sitting on my couch on the phone, probably not even watching the game. Because you were at Jordan Hare, Jared? Dang. Dustin, am I crazy to think Penn State is still the best team in the Big Ten? Probably. Do I think Penn State could beat every team in the Big Ten? Yes, but they didn't. They lost 2 games. And my relatives. I had just watched Georgia beat Georgia Tech in 2 overtimes with Todd Gurley at Georgia Tech. Nice. Nice. Dude, don't stream when there is NFL action. All right, first off, it's the Redskins and Cowboys. It's not a playoff game. These are not even 2 playoff teams. I say that as a proud Eagles fan. You rushed the field, Jared? It's crazy, man. I've only rushed the field. Well, that's not true. Clemson rushes the field after every game. People think, well, we don't rush the field. We just go on the field after every game. People think we rush the field. But I've only rushed the field for a win twice. I think twice. I don't remember what they were. It's kind of crazy. Did this man really just ask what the kick 6 is? I don't think he was serious. Oh, you meant Sunday. I won't Sunday. I'll get off before the NFL starts. Because they'll do the unveil the top 25, or really the top 6 Noble at noon. And I'm going to stream until 1. Although the Eagles play at 8:30, so I'm actually good. But no, I'm going to get off around 1 o'clock. So no worries. 1 o'clock Eastern. Who cares about the NFL anyways? I don't care about the Redskins and Cowboys. Do you think Auburn would be 1 if they beat LSU? Probably not, because then you're talking about a 1-loss Clemson versus a 1-loss Auburn. Clemson beat Auburn. They would probably still be in the same position they are right now. But maybe not. I don't think the same way that the committee does. So who would replace Malzahn at Auburn if he went to Arkansas? That is, I don't know. That honestly, I've been kind of going down the path that Auburn is going to beat Georgia. I'm not sure. That would be an interesting question. Maybe like a Chad Morris. Maybe Kevin Sumlin, guys. Maybe Kevin Sumlin can upgrade to Auburn after all this. What about Butch Jones? He's free. I rushed the field after Georgia beat Auburn in 2016. I rushed the field at Ohio State, Michigan 2016. Ohio State, Penn State 2017. Nice. Yeah, I got spoiled growing up because I grew up a Clemson fan. And in the ACC, it's not a big deal. People go on the field after every game. They encourage you at Clemson to meet at the paw. So they want you to wait until the alma mater is sung, and then they basically open the gates up on the hill, and you can just run in. But at Alabama, that was a big no-no. Alabama, I read somewhere, I don't know if it's true, that Alabama and Florida are the 2 SEC teams that have never rushed the field and never tore down their goalpost. But I don't know if that's true. I rushed the field when Florida A&M beat Samford. Nice. Is that supposed to be Samford? I don't think they beat Stanford. We got a lot of message retracted coming up. Who is the Florida State favorite for a coach if Fisher leaves? It's going to be Willie Taggart at Oregon is what I've heard. I don't know if that is completely true. Alabama versus Ohio State, strength of schedule. Strength of schedule right now favors Alabama, but if Ohio State beats Wisconsin, it's assumed that Ohio State will jump Alabama in the strength of schedule. And with the strength of schedule and a conference championship, there's an argument that the committee will jump Ohio State to 5 and drop Alabama to 6. I'm sorry, Ohio State to 4 and leave Alabama at 5, rather. Rush the Field 05 UCF versus Marshall. Nice. Do you think Bob Stoops did the right thing giving me a championship team? Sorry about a June question. I don't know. If it was what was in his head and in his heart, I guess I think it was good. He handed you the real Lincoln Riley, and there's no way you're a fake because YouTube, you can't just get fake names, so that's clearly the real Lincoln Riley. So he handed you a championship caliber team, so you didn't have to struggle your first year like he kind of had to. So I think that was good. At the time, I was like, you're insane. You could win a national championship and go out a winner. But I kind of think the June thing was a little weird, the timing. But I still think it was a good time. Fly, Eagles, fly. That's right, Elijah. That is right. You can't see it. I showed it in my live stream, but I have a Carson Wentz toy right there. All right, we'll do this for about another 10 minutes. I said I was going to not do this one as long, and I did. So I felt a little bit better. Mr. Popo for Heisman. You better give him the Heisman. If you don't, you don't want to know what he would do to you. Don't break Popo stuff. Harambe, RIP. Who is the most overrated team in the playoff hunt? Probably Miami. Just based on their schedule looked so good a couple weeks ago. Really, the Virginia Tech and Notre Dame games looked really good. And both those teams have kind of dropped off. Virginia Tech losing to Georgia Tech. Notre Dame losing to Stanford. Both of those things kind of make it not look as good. And then they lost to Pitt. So I would probably say Miami. Carson Wentz or Prince Harry? Why are you asking me the same thing? You're asking me 2 + 2 or 4. They're the same thing. The Eagles tweeted out a photo of Prince Harry, and they said something about Carson Wentz. It was great. They look way too similar. What time is the next stream? I'm telling you 11:30. You may want to check YouTube at 11 Eastern time. Sunday morning. I want to do the unveiling of the teams with you guys. I think that would be kind of cool. Who does Clemson not want to face in the playoff? Who scares them? Probably a healthy Auburn. Healthy being the key phrase with their running backs. If they're not healthy, I'd probably say Oklahoma. Don't talk about Popo's training. Yeah. It's so good. Please go watch Dragon Ball Z. I will talk about that in every stream if I have to. Harambe, I don't want to go to Tennessee. Well, I have some bad news, Harambe. You can't go anywhere. You're a dead ape. Sorry to tell you, bud. Dang, I'm Pacific time and I sleep until 10. Well, you better not that day, Noble. I mean, I guess you can. I'm not going to make you. I'm not going to, come to your house. I don't even know where you live. All right, I'm starting to get loopy. Would Clemson kill Wisconsin? No, I don't think they would kill them, but I do think they would beat them. I think the spread opening up in that game, I think there might be spreads for all of these potential games already. I'm not sure, but I think the spread would probably open up at about 10 points for Clemson. What Ohio State or Cincinnati or Kent State game should I go to? I don't know. All of them but one is no longer playing football games this year. So maybe you mean next year. Yeah, you can quote me, Jessica. That's fine. Do I think Chip Kelly can win a national title at UCLA? I don't know about a national title. Because Oregon, Mike Bellotti had already kind of built Oregon up before he got there. He's going to start with a lot less in the cupboard at UCLA. But obviously he's in a Power 5 conference. The South right now is a lot less competitive than the North, so that helps. But a national title is a lot to ask for at UCLA. Do I think he can win a Pac-12 title and go to the Rose Bowl? Yes, I do. Continue to play at the Rose Bowl. Did you know that Marshall made the stadium shake when they had a pick six against Purdue in 2015? I like the herd because I live there. Yeah, I didn't know that. Wrong. Clemson isn't beating Wisconsin with our cornerbacks. We can shut down their passing game. Yes. So Wisconsin's defense, I think, is underrated by a lot of the general population. They have an extraordinarily good defense, but Clemson has a better defense. Maybe not statistically. I think Wisconsin's number one in the country right now. But week in and week out, I would pick Clemson's defense over Wisconsin's, and Wisconsin is largely one-dimensional. If you can shut down their running game, you have a much better chance to win. Whereas if they shut down the passing game, Clemson can still run. All right, I'm going to take about 3 more questions, and then I'm going to hop off. Have you ever played football? Technically, I played football. I played youth. I played from the age of 6 until like 11, whenever like the year before middle school football is. And then I just wanted to hang out. I didn't really care. And then my sophomore year, I was like, yeah, football. Let's go play football. And so I did spring football. I did off-season workouts. Our third game of the year was against our biggest rival. I played varsity. We sucked at football. So I played JV 3 games. I would dress for varsity for 3 games. I got into varsity for the first 2. And then we beat our big rival in the 3rd game, and I was like, okay, I'm done. That was it. That was it for me. That's all I wanted to do. I beat our rival. And I really missed. So, like, I practiced Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Had JV Thursday. Had varsity Friday. And Saturday we all went to Clemson games. And Sunday the Eagles played. I was like, hey, I'm in high school. I would kind of like to hang out with friends and just do nothing at some point. So I'm really lazy. I'm an extraordinarily lazy person, so I bailed. Bye, Zach. Can Ohio State win the national title? I mean, yeah, of course they can. They're going to be in the thick of the playoff, especially if they beat Wisconsin. If they don't beat Wisconsin, no. But I think they probably should beat Wisconsin. They're favored in the game. I think overall they might have a better team than Wisconsin. And then if I'm Ohio State, I would probably want a rematch against Oklahoma. It's not going to happen because Ohio State will be the 4th seed. But prove yourself against Oklahoma and then let Clemson and Auburn duke it out and take on the winner of that game. But I think Ohio State would have the toughest road because they would have to go through Clemson at 1 if Clemson wins and then face the winner of either Auburn or Oklahoma. Whoever that 4 seed is not – it's not going to be an easy road for them to get to the national championship. Healthy Alabama versus healthy Clemson. Who you got? I still have Clemson. I think Clemson overall is the better team. So in 2015, I thought Clemson was overall the better team, and they lost. And then last year, I thought Alabama overall probably was the better team, and they lost. So the fact that I think Clemson is overall the better team probably means Alabama wins. But I do think Clemson overall, they have much better defense. Not much better. That's probably wrong to say. But I think they have a better defense. And I trust... I was going to say I trust Kelly Brown over Jalen Hurts. But if we're just talking about running, I don't. I don't know. Do you follow D2 football? Playoffs have been wild. I don't. Make sure nobody's done a super chat. Nope. Don't follow it. West Georgia lost to West Florida. Wingate, not Wingate. I almost went to Wingate. If I'd gone to Wingate, I probably would pay attention to the D2 playoffs more. So we're down to the semis in the D2 bracket, huh? Indiana, Pennsylvania. That doesn't make any sense. Versus Assumption. That's a weird school name. And West Alabama versus West Florida. Anton Films, goodbye. All right. One last question. Would it shock you if Mark Richt gets fired for the same reason he was fired at Georgia? This year, yeah. But overall, I mean, I don't know. It depends. I mean, if it's over like a 10 or 15 year period, maybe. Yeah. All right, so I am going to log off. It's almost 11 o'clock. 11 a.m. Sunday morning or 11:30 or sometime in between. I'm planning on being here to live stream. Thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out in the live stream. It was really cool to spend about an hour and 45 minutes with everybody. So I have a couple of videos coming out tomorrow, a couple of videos coming out Saturday, and then we'll do the live stream on Sunday, and then we'll do my top 25 on Monday. So that's kind of how it'll go, and then we'll know Monday who the Heisman finalists are, and I'll be making videos on those. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the live stream, make sure to hit the thumbs up on the way out the door, the metaphoric door. If you're watching and you have not subscribed for some reason, definitely make sure to hit the subscribe button to catch more college football videos coming out soon. Other than that, I will see you guys either in the comments section, which I've neglected this week as I've been sleeping, and I plan on correcting that either tonight and or tomorrow, or in the videos coming up this week. So thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and yeah, have a good night. Because I believe they finished 7-5, so they'll go to one of the Independence Bowl or one of the lower tiers. Why does Arkansas want Malzahn so bad? Well, he has a lot of deep ties to the state. Grew up, I don't know if he grew up there, but huge head coach there in high school. That's how he came to prominence. Coached Arkansas State. He was an offensive coordinator in Fayetteville for one season under Houston Nutt, maybe two. So he knows the state. He is, I think he's an Arkansas native. And look what he did at Auburn. Gene Chizik wasn't the best head coach at Auburn. If you take Cam Newton and you take Nick Fairley off that Auburn team in 2010, they don't win the national championship. So, and he had a 5-15 record at Iowa State. Is that right? 5-19. So yeah, he not the greatest coach in the world statistically. His last 2 years at Auburn were not good in 2011, 2012, especially when you watch like the Iron Bowl and see how far Alabama actually was ahead of them. And then you watch what Malzahn did just taking over Auburn. Not always an up year, but when they're up, they are up. And they've been up further than Arkansas's been up. Definitely in my lifetime, but arguably since Bobby Petrino left, they rose to number 3 in 2011, Arkansas did. So Malzahn going to Arkansas could entirely change the program. But if he beats Georgia, it ain't going to happen. So if you're Arkansas, you are really, really, really rooting for Georgia. Is Haskins a future Cardell Jones? I don't know. We didn't get to see enough of him in that Michigan game. Somebody asked me in the last live stream, and I was talking to one of my friends about it, if I would start Dwayne Haskins over JT Barrett. And something in my gut wants to say yes, that I would. Because JT Barrett has been kind of up and down, but in something like a conference championship game, you want your senior. He underwent surgery and apparently is ready to go for the game, which doesn't seem real to me, but whatever. So if his knee is 100%, I would start Bear Jones. I would start JT Barrett. But if JT Barrett is only 95%, I would put Dwayne Haskins in and see what he could do. Because he looked pretty damn dynamic against Michigan. And this looks a lot like that 2014 Big Ten Championship against Wisconsin, doesn't it? Dustin, do you think LSU should be higher ranking? No, I think they're about where they're at. They beat Auburn, which I think people down the line. Hi, Max. All right. Is Wisconsin a replica of the 2015 Iowa team? No, not necessarily, but not as far as the team makeup goes. But if you're talking about what is probably going to happen to them in the Big Ten Championship game and the playoff, probably. Undefeated regular season, plays a tough-fought Big Ten Championship game that may go down to the wire. It may not, but it may go down to the wire, and then they may end up losing and not being in. That would not be good for them. There's Ohio State fans would be perfectly fine with it. How do you think? Wow, that is a really long name. How do you think Dan Mullen will do at Florida? I think he's going to do really well at Florida. I think that's about as good of a hire as Florida could have gotten based on what's going on in the country right now, based on what fits with him. He already knows the personnel. He already has a track record of winning there with offensive coordinating. 05 to 08, 2 national championships, got Tebow where he was during that time. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. I do think Florida fans may want to give him a year or two to kind of settle in as the head coach there. But he'll win there a lot easier than he did at Mississippi State, I can guarantee you that. Do you think TCU can beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 Championship game? I think they can. I think honestly, I don't know if that's true. I was going to say it's the least likely of all the 5 Power 5 conference championship games, but I'm not entirely certain that's true. Because TCU is a good team. Oklahoma ran on TCU's defense more than any other team did against the Horned Frogs this year, which is not a great sign for what could happen in Cowboy Stadium in a rematch. I think Baker Mayfield is going to be fired up. Obviously, he feels like he has a lot of things to prove the week before the Heisman. So I think TCU rather has a uphill battle against Oklahoma. I think technically TCU outscored Oklahoma in the second half of that game, but I'm fairly confident Oklahoma's going to win that game. Who takes Florida State job when Jimbo leaves? Everything I've read on the internet, which means it's 100% true, because that's how the internet is, says Willie Taggart of Oregon, which I'm slightly disappointed at. I kind of wanted to see what he would do up at Oregon, but of course he was former South Florida head coach, so he kind of knows the state of Florida a little bit. So it'll be, I think it's going to be Willie Taggart, and I saw somebody on Twitter, was it Brett McMurphy or something, that said that Regents at Florida State do not anticipate him coming back. Will Minnesota be a contender under Coach Fleck in a couple of years? I think so. Hey, lifers. I believe we are live. Everything should be good. It sounded good on my end. Of course, it's a little bit slow starting up, a little bit of a delay. How are y'all doing tonight? Hope everybody is doing well. We have a huge championship weekend on the horizon coming up, starting tomorrow night with the Pac-12 Championship. So I'm here probably for about an hour and a half, a little bit less time than normal. I felt really weird this week. I've slept a whole lot this week, like within a 32-hour window, Tuesday night to Wednesday. I slept like 19 hours, which is not normal nor okay. And usually that's my body's way of telling me that I may start to be getting sick and to kind of calm down. So that is why there's been a little bit less videos than I wanted to earlier in the week, but hopefully I can make up for it with a couple of live streams. We have a lot going on this week. I will be doing a live stream Sunday morning. I'm shooting for 11, but it may be closer to 11:30. The College Football Playoffs top 4 will be opening up at noon, so I want to, be able to hang out and watch that with you guys live, and we can all be enraged probably together at whoever ends up at number 4, because whoever ends up at number 5 probably has just as good of a reason to get in as number 4. So, hello, I can't say that name, Aston, Nick Smith, Jab Gaming, Lil Jackster, what's up, guys? How's everybody doing tonight? 2 live streams in a week. I feel like did I do that last week? Maybe I did. We got the chat on the screen. I will always do the same little announcement at the beginning. If I don't answer your question, I'm not ignoring you. I just tend to look right at the camera when I'm talking, and a lot of people ask questions a lot of times. So the best way to get my attention is, I may be able to see it in the chat, but just in case I don't, is a super chat. If you want to throw $1 or 2 my way, it does help the channel, and definitely make sure I see your question or your comment. I do have the separate tab up, so I can make sure to double check myself in case I don't see one, like I did a couple of streams ago. So is life, I guess. So yeah, I will. I'm gonna try to grab as many questions as I can. About an hour and a half here on the live stream, and we will see what's going on. So we can talk about coaching changes. We can talk about Tennessee not getting a coach forever for the rest of time, because nobody wants to coach there, and whenever they do, they somehow bungle it up. We could talk about conference championship games this upcoming weekend. We could talk about playoff scenarios. So there's a lot of things we can talk about. John Gruden, Dave Doran, Kevin Sumlin apparently said no when, like, briefly approached by reporters or something. Like, Tennessee didn't even reach out to him. So we got John Gruden, Kevin Sumlin, Dave Doran, Mike Gundy, Chip Kelly. I heard that they went after Scott Frost, but obviously he said no. So they're at their 7th? I feel like I'm leaving somebody out too. They may be at their 8th pick for head coach. Oh. I have no idea. I have no idea who is going to be Tennessee's next head coach. I don't know why they didn't almost immediately go after Les Miles. Why would he's a proven winner in the SEC. He's certainly better than anything you've had over the last decade. Why in the world? Do you believe the committee is trying to make Alabama's resume look better than it is by leaving Miss State ranked? No, I don't think that. I think Mississippi State lost their star quarterback the second series of the game, and then they lost on the road. So I don't really think that's I don't think that's enough to completely drop them out. They're going to use some of that. I do, however, think that they put South Carolina at 24 last week to boost Clemson's resume. I do think that. But Mississippi State had a legitimate reason. Their only 3 losses, even though some of them were blowouts, were to Georgia, Auburn, and Alabama before that Egg Bowl. And the Egg Bowl was probably because Fitzgerald got injured. And I do want to let you guys know, nobody's done this yet, but if you put a bunch of like emojis on either side of your question, I'm not going to read it. That annoys me. And there's a second one. Oh, if you're talking to each other, I see somebody doing it right there. Just put a little @ and then their name. That you guys can talk to each other. That is perfectly fine with me. I have no problem doing that. But just do that so I don't like read it. Just something that says Oklahoma. And I'm like, okay, Oklahoma. Dustin, can UCF make it in? No. I kept them alive in the eliminator just out of principle. I could not eliminate them. But no, they cannot make it in. When will you come to Penn State for a whiteout? That's a great... I want to. Hello, Cam. I want to a lot. I don't know when I will. That requires things like money. And I don't have money. Does Missouri deserve a good bowl game? They deserve a better bowl game than I thought Missouri would have a couple of weeks ago, which was none. They'll probably go to something, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but one of the probably the lowest SEC bowl game. He's going to have to, it's a pretty small boat he has to row up against some of the bigger boys. But he's in the West, which helps. Once he kind of gets going in recruiting, assuming somebody from a bigger program doesn't come and pluck him up first, I think Minnesota will at least be in contention to win the West in about 2 years or so. Dustin, what happens if the top 4 lose their games? Chaos. Chaos is the real answer. Let's play it out for a split second. So that would mean Miami's in. That would mean Georgia's in. So they would be, Georgia would probably 1, Miami would probably be 2, Alabama would be 3, and at that case you almost have to give Ohio State the 4th seed, right? TCU won't be able to jump up from 11 to 4. Penn State isn't going to move. Pac-12 winner is irrelevant. Yeah, so if for some reason the worst case scenario for the College Football Playoff Committee happens and all 4 lose, which is not going to happen, but it's fun to think about. If all 4 lose, I think that's your playoff. Who becomes Tennessee's job? Who becomes their head coach? Says the awesome person. I don't know. I really don't know. All right, I'm going to go back down to the live chat. So here's what Tennessee has done. If I was Mike Gundy, would I have taken Tennessee's offer? No, I wouldn't have even talked to them. The fact that they flew out to talk to him is ridiculous. I wouldn't have even done that. What all has happened with Tennessee? So they supposedly, John Curry signed a deal with Jeff Brom of Purdue. He went back and all he needed was the chancellor's signature. The chancellor said no. So then Curry went back to Brom with a lower offer, and Brom was obviously like, no, I'm not doing that. So they tried to get Mike Gundy. That didn't work out. They tried to get Dave Doran of NC State, who is not a great coach, to be honest with you. He's 8-4 this year because his entire defense is seniors. So that helps. Dave Doran said no. I don't know if Tennessee's reached out to T. Martin. I don't know why they wouldn't. I don't know if they've reached out to Chad Morris. Now, allegedly, Les Miles is most interested in that job because, yeah, okay, sure. So Les Miles is better than Dave Doran. Why didn't they reach out to Les Miles before they reached out to freaking Greg Schiano? That doesn't make sense at all. Everything's happening. Anybody else that I leave off? Who all said no to Tennessee? John Gruden,